Please don't cry, little one. Please. When Elena Cruz first heard the faint, trembling whimper behind the Harrington mansion, she thought it was a wounded stray cat, or maybe a raccoon digging through the dumpsters again. She had no idea she was walking straight into the Harrington family's darkest, most explosive secret. A secret powerful enough to destroy reputations, marriages, fortunes, and lives. Because the monster in this story didn't lurk in the shadows. She lived inside the mansion. A woman dripping in diamonds and praise. A woman the city believed was an angel of charity. But beneath her perfect smile was something sharp, ruthless, and desperate. A woman ready to lie, manipulate, and even ruin anyone who got between her and what she wanted. So how did a newborn end up in the trash? Why was the perfect wife ready to blame the maid? And what terrifying truth was hidden in the tiny bundle Elena found that night? The truth that would make the billionaire himself fall to his knees. You'll see everything unfold. The twists, the betrayals, the secrets buried under luxury, and the final revelation that will leave you breathless. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more unbelievable true story-style dramas, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because this story starts with a cry and ends with a truth no one in the Harrington mansion was ready for. The sun had dipped behind the hills, bathing the glass walls of the Harrington residence in a soft, burnt orange glow. Inside, everything smelled of lemon polish and eucalyptus candles, the signature scent chosen by Mrs. Harrington herself. Elena wiped down the final section of the kitchen island with slow, practiced movements. She'd been a housekeeper for nearly 17 years, but no home had ever demanded perfection the way this one did. Every inch of the marble, every chrome handle, every window pane had to shine like it belonged in a magazine. Her fingers were cracked from bleach. Her back ached from bending. Her feet throbbed in the same worn sneakers she'd owned for 4 years. But she worked, every day, without complaint. Her daughter's asthma medication wasn't cheap. Rent kept climbing. Life didn't stop just because she was tired. She exhaled softly and straightened up. "One more room," she whispered to herself, a phrase she'd repeated so often it felt like a prayer. She tucked the cloth into her apron, pushed her small cleaning cart forward, and headed toward the staff hallway. The mansion was strangely still, too still. Usually, Elena could hear the distant bass of music from upstairs or the sharp click of Mrs. Harrington's heels on the marble floors. Sometimes the chef humming in the kitchen, sometimes the house manager barking orders into her headset. Tonight, nothing. Just the faint hum of the air conditioning and the soft, rhythmic tick of the antique grandfather clock in the foyer. Elena paused. Something felt off. But she forced the thought away. Rich people had rich people moods. Maybe the Harringtons were out. Maybe the staff had been given early leave. She continued. Then, it came again. A noise so soft she thought she imagined it. A tiny, quivering whimper. Her body went still. She turned her head slowly, listening harder. Silence. Then, a second cry. Clearer, sharper, desperate. A baby's cry. Her heart punched against her ribs. "What on earth?" she whispered. She dropped her cloth and hurried down the hallway, each step echoing louder than the last. The sound grew clearer, leading her past the laundry room, past the staff lockers, toward the back exit where the dumpsters were kept. Another cry, this time thinner, like the baby was losing strength. Elena's blood ran cold. "No. No," she breathed, quickening her pace. She pushed open the back door, and the night air hit her face, cool, still, carrying a faint scent of wet soil from the garden sprinklers. She listened. Silence again. Then, a rustling noise, a choke-like whimper, a soft, pitiful wail. It was coming from the trash enclosure. Slowly, carefully, Elena stepped closer. Her breath hitched when she saw it. A large black garbage bag on the ground, not inside the dumpster, half open and moving. Her heart crashed into her throat. She knelt down, shaking, and peeled the plastic open with trembling fingers. Her world stopped. Inside was a newborn, wrapped in nothing but a thin hospital blanket. Skin pale, lips trembling, eyes squeezed shut. The umbilical cord had been cut, but poorly, unevenly, almost violently. "Oh my God," Elena whispered, tears burning her eyes. "Mi amor, what did they do to you? Who would do this? Why here? Why at the Harrington mansion?" Her mind raced. Did someone break in? Did a stranger abandon a baby on the property? No, that didn't feel right. The blanket, the fast, sloppy cut, the hospital smell still clinging to the skin. This baby was barely a few hours old. Someone at the mansion did this. Someone inside. Her breath shook as she looked up at the glittering house towering above her, lights glowing warm and golden in the windows. A palace hiding a nightmare. And then another thought struck her hard. The Harringtons had no children. Mrs. Harrington had always insisted she didn't want them. Mr. Harrington never spoke about it. But the staff whispered. Oh, they whispered plenty. About affairs, about jealousy, about Mrs. Harrington's obsession with image, about the billionaire's long nights away, and the rumors of a woman he might have loved before the marriage. Elena swallowed hard. This baby, whose was it? Who wanted her gone? And why dump her in the trash unless someone needed her to disappear? A twig snapped behind her. Elena gasped and spun around, clutching the baby tight. A shadow moved near the garden path. "Hello?" she called out, voice cracking. Silence. Then, a whisper. "Elena." It was Grace, the mansion's elderly night gardener, emerging slowly from the hedges, her face white ghost in the dim lights. "Dios mío," Grace gasped when she saw the baby. "Is that... Elena, where did you—" "In the trash," Elena whispered. Grace's hand shot to her mouth. No, they didn't. They wouldn't." Elena met her eyes. "Who do you think did this?" But Grace didn't answer. She only looked up, toward the mansion windows glowing warm and innocent, and whispered, "Elena, you need to leave. Now." "Why?" "Because if the person who put that baby there realizes she's still alive," her voice wavered, "you'll be the next thing they tried to throw away." Elena's blood went ice cold. She clutched the baby closer as a light flicked on inside the mansion. Footsteps approaching. A shadow crossing the hallway window. Someone was coming. Someone who couldn't know Elena had discovered the secret they tried to bury. And as the doorknob inside the house turned, Elena realized something with sickening clarity. She wasn't just holding a baby someone wanted gone. She was holding the truth that could destroy one of the richest, most powerful families in California. And someone inside that mansion was willing to do anything to keep that truth buried. Elena's hands trembled as she backed away from the door. The baby whimpered softly against her chest, the sound barely a thread of air, weak, exhausted, fading. Grace grabbed her arm. "Elena, listen to me," the older woman whispered urgently. "You need to hide her, right now." "But where?" Elena's voice quivered. "If they see me holding her—" "They won't." Grace pointed toward a narrow pathway along the side of the house. "Go through the service entrance. The private pantry room stays unlocked. No cameras. You can stay there until I get help." Footsteps sounded on the other side of the back door, sharp heels clicking closer, closer. Mrs. Harrington. Elena's stomach dropped. Grace shoved her lightly. Go! Without another word, Elena slipped into the shadows, cradling the tiny bundle against her chest. The baby's skin felt cold, much too cold. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears as she ran along the stone path, her shoes slapping against the walkway. Behind her, the back door creaked open. "Elena!" Mrs. Harrington's voice floated into the night, smooth as silk, sharp as ice. Elena ducked behind a tall hedge. "Grace, why were you near the dumpsters?" the woman demanded. Just trimming the hydrangeas, ma'am," Grace lied, voice tight. A beat of silence. Then the door shut. Grace whispered toward Elena, barely audible. "Go!" Elena didn't waste another second. She darted down the narrow path, slipped inside through the pantry entrance, and gently laid the baby on a folded linen towel on the small prep table. The dim light flickered above her, the bulb badly in need of replacing, casting trembling shadows on the walls. The baby let out a tiny, pained cry. "Oh, sweetheart," Elena whispered, her voice shaky. "Hang on, please hang on." She examined her quickly, tiny fingers curled, skin pale, body shivering under the thin blanket. "How could someone do this to you?" Elena whispered, tears stinging her eyes. She knew neglect when she saw it. She knew desperation, fear, cruelty. But a newborn? In a trash bag? That was beyond anything she'd ever seen. She reached into her apron pocket for her phone, only to remember she'd left it charging in the staff lounge. Damn! She looked down at the newborn again, her thumb brushing the baby's forehead. "I'm here," Elena murmured. "I won't leave you." A voice suddenly spoke from the doorway. "Elena!" She whipped around. It was Andrew. Andrew Harrington, the billionaire's son, the one who owned half the tech patents in Silicon Valley before he even hit 30, the one who was supposed to be on a flight to Singapore this week, the one the family almost never discussed. Handsome, sharp-jawed, broad-shouldered, but with a constant exhaustion in his eyes like he carried the weight of the world inside him. And right now, he looked startled. "What are you doing in here?" he asked, stepping inside. Elena instinctively shielded the baby with her body. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She couldn't lie. She shouldn't tell the truth. She had no idea which one would destroy her faster. But Andrew saw the panic in her face and the blanket behind her. His brows furrowed. "What is that?" Elena swallowed hard. "Sir, please don't be alarmed, but I found something outside." "Found what?" She stepped aside just slightly, just enough for the baby's face to peek out. Andrew froze. Everything about him stilled. His breathing, his posture, even the pulse in his throat. "What?" His voice cracked. "What is that?" "It's a newborn, sir." Elena's lips trembled. "Someone left her in the trash behind the house." Andrew staggered a step backward, leaning heavily against the wall. No, God! His reaction wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Elena's breath hitched. "Sir, do you know who she belongs to?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. His eyes said everything. Fear, guilt, heartbreak. "Elena," Andrew swallowed hard, voice trembling. "Who else knows about this?" "Just Grace," Elena whispered. "Does my mother know?" "No." Good. His jaw clenched so tightly she heard his teeth grit. "If she finds out, this entire house will turn into a war zone." Elena hesitated. "Sir, I'm sorry if this is personal, but is this baby yours?" Andrew didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. Then, a single tear slid down his cheek. "Yes," he whispered. "She's mine." Elena's throat tightened. "Sir, what do you want me to do?" "Keep her safe," he said instantly, voice hoarse. "Please." He ran a shaking hand through his hair. "I didn't know she was born yet.
The mother, she went into hiding. She was scared, terrified of my family, my mother especially, and now—" His voice cracked. "Someone must have found her. Someone must have taken the baby. Someone—" Andrew stopped. His eyes darkened. "My mother," he whispered. "She knew. She must have known." Elena's heart pounded. "Sir, you don't think she—" He stared at the ground. "My mother would do anything to protect the Harrington image. Anything." Elena shivered. "What do we do now?" Andrew wiped his face and straightened his posture. The fear in his eyes hardened into determination, cold, sharp, unbreakable. "We keep this baby alive," he said firmly, "and we find out who is trying to hide her." He took a deep breath. "And Elena—" "Yes, sir?" "You saw nothing, you heard nothing, you tell no one." His voice softened. "I'm begging you, not for me, but for her." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I won't leave her, I swear." Andrew nodded and then pulled out his phone. "I need to call someone I trust, someone outside this house." He hesitated. "Not the police. Not yet." Elena cradled the newborn carefully as Andrew stepped into the hallway, voice low as he made a call. The baby stirred weakly, her tiny fist opening and closing. Elena brushed her cheek. "You're safe," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure it was true. "I'll protect you, no matter what." Suddenly, the pantry door swung open. Elena gasped and instinctively shielded the baby again. It wasn't Andrew. It wasn't Grace. It was Mrs. Harrington. Her eyes fell on the baby, then on Elena, then on her son. And the look in her eyes, cold, sharp, vicious, said everything. She knew. She always knew. And she wasn't going to let this baby live another second. "Elena," Mrs. Harrington said softly, dangerously. "What exactly are you hiding behind your back?"
Maya barely slept that night. She had laid the baby, now clean, warm, and swaddled in one of her spare blankets, into the little wicker basket she used for laundry. Every so often she leaned over the edge just to make sure the tiny chest was still moving. Every rise and fall made her body sag with relief. Every soft squeak felt like a tiny spark of hope. But morning always comes, even when you wish it wouldn't. And by sunrise, Maya's fear was back, sharp, cold, and pulsing behind her ribs. Because now came the question she'd been avoiding since last night. Who put the baby there, and why? She forced herself out of bed, got dressed, and carefully tucked the baby deeper into the corner of the room. She prayed, actually prayed, that the Richardson mansion would be having one of its usual chaotic mornings so no one would notice how shaken she was. But as Maya stepped into the hallway, she realized with a jolt. The house was too quiet. Way too quiet. The staff usually bustled around by 6 a.m., Sandra clattering pans in the kitchen, Tony grumbling while dragging the trash bins, two gardeners arguing about fertilizer. Nothing. Not a single sound. Maya moved cautiously down the stairs, her hand resting on the railing. Halfway down, she froze. Sandra, the cook, stood in the center of the kitchen, not moving, not cooking, just staring at the countertop with an expression Maya had never seen on her face before. Fear. Real fear. "Sandra?" Maya whispered. Sandra jumped so violently she nearly knocked over a bowl. "Maya, you scared me. Are you okay?" Sandra opened her mouth, closed it again, then finally leaned in, eyes darting toward the hallway. She whispered, "Something happened." Maya felt her stomach twist. What? Sandra swallowed hard. "They found blood. Near the dumpsters. Maya's heart slammed. Blood. Near the dumpsters. The same dumpsters where she had found the baby. Her vision went blurry for a moment, and she gripped the counter to stay upright. Sandra kept talking, voice trembling. The security team is freaking out. Mr. Richardson is furious. And his wife? She looks like she didn't sleep at all. Did they find anything else? Maya asked carefully. Sandra shook her head. Not that they told us, but they're checking everyone's rooms today, staff included. Maya's pulse spiked. If they checked her room, if they opened that laundry basket, if they found the baby, she didn't know what would happen, but she knew one thing: it would not be good. Before she could think, footsteps echoed in the hall outside the kitchen, heavy footsteps, multiple pairs. Security. Sandra stiffened. "They're coming," she whispered. "Act normal." But nothing felt normal, not the stiff air, not the panic smothering her chest, not the dread clawing up her throat. Two security guards entered, Evan and Marco. Normally, they walked around like bored mall cops, eating chips and flirting with the staff, but today their faces were carved from stone. "Morning," Evan said, but the words sounded like an interrogation. "Morning," Maya whispered. Marco flipped open a small notepad. "We're doing a standard sweep today, just routine after an incident on the property last night." Sandra spoke quickly. "What kind of incident?" Evan shot her a cold look. "Nothing that concerns you." Marco continued. "We'll need everyone to remain available. No one leaves the house." Maya's stomach sank. No one leaves. No escape. No errand runs. No way to move the baby out of the mansion. She forced herself to keep her expression neutral. "Of course." Evan's gaze lingered on her for a moment, longer than necessary, watching her, assessing her. Her palms dampened with sweat. Then Marco closed his notepad. "We'll call you if we need you." The guards left as abruptly as they'd appeared. Sandra let out the breath she'd been holding. "Maya, what's happening? Why would someone bleed near the dumpsters? Do you think someone got hurt?" Maya opened her mouth, but the words that almost came out, "It wasn't just blood, there was a baby," died on her tongue. She couldn't tell her. Not yet. Instead, she forced a smile she didn't feel. "I'm sure it's nothing. Maybe a raccoon got into something." Sandra nodded, but her eyes were still filled with worry. Maya excused herself and hurried back toward the staff wing. Every step felt heavy, like guilt, like fear, like the truth she couldn't run from. When she entered her room, she locked the door behind her. The basket was exactly where she left it. The baby inside was awake now, eyes wide, small hands curling and uncurling. "So small," Maya whispered, kneeling beside her. "So innocent." Whoever put her in that trash bin wanted her gone. Not found, not rescued, gone. Maya's breath hitched as a new thought slammed into her mind. What if the person responsible lived inside this mansion? The idea wasn't far-fetched. She had seen how the rich protected their secrets, how they spun lies like silk, how they crushed people who got in their way without hesitation. And the Richardsons, they had enough money, power, and influence to bury anything, including a baby. She hesitated, then gently lifted the baby out of the basket and placed her on the bed. The child clung to her finger with surprising strength. "Who are you?" Maya whispered. The baby blinked up at her, calm now, trusting. And suddenly, a memory flashed through Maya's mind. Something Kira Richardson had said just a few weeks ago. Something that had seemed strange then, but terrifying now. During one of her dramatic tantrums, she snapped at her husband, "You keep forgetting what's good for this family. You think I'll let anything threaten what's mine?" At the time, Maya dismissed it as privileged entitlement. Now she wasn't so sure. Then the knock came. Sharp, forceful. Maya froze, heart slamming against her ribs. "Housekeeping inspection," a voice called. "Security." They were at her door. She looked at the baby. She looked at the door, and for the first time in her entire life, Maya Thompson, rule-following, hard-working, never breaks a sweat Maya Thompson, considered lying straight to someone's face, because telling the truth would destroy them both. "Maya!" Another knock, louder. "Open up!" She scrambled, lifting the baby and sliding her gently but quickly under the bed, wrapped in layered blankets so she wouldn't roll or cry. Then she stood, took a deep breath, and unlocked the door. Evan stepped in first. Marco followed. "Morning," Marco said, but his tone suggested he wasn't expecting anything good. Maya forced a smile. "Everything okay?" "We're checking all staff quarters," Evan said without emotion. "You know the drill." "I understand." Her palms were sweating. "Go ahead." They walked around her room, too slowly, too thoroughly. Marco opened her closet. Evan looked under her sink. One of them lifted her laundry hamper. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Every second felt stretched thin like it might snap. Marco crouched next to her bed. Her stomach clenched. He looked under. She held her breath. He frowned. A moment passed. Then another. Finally he stood. "Clear." Maya's knees nearly buckled. They finished their sweep and headed for the door. But just as Evan stepped out, he paused and turned back to her. "You're sure you didn't hear anything last night?" he asked, voice low. Her heart thudded. "No, I heard nothing. At all." Evan stared at her for a long moment, studying her expression, searching for a crack. But Maya gave him none. "Well," he said finally, "if you remember something, anything, you let us know." She nodded. He left. The door clicked shut. Maya locked it immediately, then dropped to her knees and pulled the baby out from under the bed. She was still warm, still breathing, still alive. Maya held her close, pressing her cheek against the tiny body. "I'm not letting anything happen to you. I don't care what they do. I don't care how dangerous this gets." Because the truth was becoming clearer with every passing minute. Someone in this mansion threw this baby away. Someone powerful, someone desperate. And if they realized Maya had found her, they would stop at nothing to silence her.
Maya didn't leave her room for the next hour. She sat on the edge of her bed, the tiny baby resting against her chest, listening for every footstep in a hallway, every echo of a door slamming, every shift in the quiet tension that smothered the Richardson mansion. The house had always been big. Today, it felt predatory. By mid-morning, the staff was finally released to resume their duties, though security still prowled the hallways like restless dogs. Maya waited for the noise level to rise, the sounds of a house returning to routine, and only then slid the baby into her laundry basket once again, disguised under soft towels and folded sheets. "There we go, sweetheart," she whispered. "A little ride, nice and quiet." But her hands trembled as she pushed the cart through the back corridor. Every second the baby was inside this house was a risk. But hiding her forever wasn't an option. She needed answers. She needed to know whose baby this was, and why someone had thrown her away. She wheeled the cart down the hallway toward the laundry room. As she passed the main sitting area, she spotted a familiar figure seated on the white velvet sofa, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. Daniel Richardson, the billionaire heir, the golden son of the mansion. Tall, handsome in an effortless way, wearing a navy sweater and a dark expression that didn't fit the man she knew. Daniel was usually friendly to the staff, unlike his parents, But today his jaw was taut and his eyes looked drained. Maya paused, debating. She had cleaned this home for 6 years. She knew the difference between anger and fear. Daniel looked afraid. Before she could slip past him, he lifted his head and noticed her. "Maya," he said, voice hoarse, "hold on." Her heart stuttered. She forced a calm smile and stopped her cart. "Yes, sir." Daniel stood running a hand through his hair as if trying to gather himself. "You're on the early shift today." "Yes. He hesitated, then swallowed. "Did you happen to take out the trash last night?" Her stomach clenched painfully. "I do, most nights. Why?" Daniel glanced around, lowering his voice. "There was an incident." "I heard," Maya said carefully. "Did you see anything unusual?" Maya kept her face neutral. "Like what?" He hesitated again. Something flickered through his expression. Hesitation, conflict, something deeply troubled. "Blood," he finally whispered. "Security found blood behind the house." Maya's pulse quickened, but she forced herself to keep breathing evenly. "I didn't see any blood, sir," she said. Daniel studied her closely, almost desperately, like someone hoping she'd contradict him, like someone hoping she knew something he didn't. But after a moment, he just nodded and exhaled. "Okay, if you remember anything," his voice softened, "please tell me." "I will," Maya lied gently. He gave her a tight, grateful smile before sinking back onto the couch. Maya pushed her cart away, her heart pounding with new worries. Because in Daniel's expression, she had seen something she never expected. Guilt. Not suspicion, not anger. Guilt. And she knew, with a certainty that chilled her bones. Daniel Richardson knew something. Maybe not everything, but something important. In the laundry room. 20 minutes later, Maya slipped into the laundry room, the only place in the mansion where she could close the door and not raise eyebrows. She locked it, then lifted the baby out of the cart. "It's okay, sweetheart, just us," she whispered. The baby's cheeks were flushed, tiny fingers curling around the air like she was searching for someone to hold. She kissed her forehead. "Who would ever throw you away?" She wished the baby could answer, even with nonsense coos, anything. Instead, the silence stretched heavy. Maya rocked her gently, then laid her on a folded blanket on the table. She opened her phone and began researching nearby hospitals, missing person reports, anything involving a newborn. Nothing. No missing babies, no emergency calls, no recent pregnancies reported in the neighborhood, which meant whoever abandoned her didn't want her found. A sudden knock made Maya jump. "Laundry?" a voice called. Maya's heart slammed. She scrambled to cover the baby with a towel. "Yes?" she called back, forcing normalcy into her voice. "It's Sandra. You in there?" She exhaled in relief and opened the door. Sandra stepped in, arms full of lemons, but as soon as the door shut behind her, she whispered urgently, "Something's happening with Kira." Maya's blood chilled instantly. "What do you mean?" "She's pacing, crying, snapping at the staff, and she keeps asking if anyone saw anything behind the house last night." Kira Richardson, Daniel's stepmother, a woman with ice for a heartbeat and venom for a smile. "What exactly is she saying?" Maya pressed. Sandra bit her lip. "She keeps repeating, 'It wasn't supposed to be this messy.'" The room spun for a moment. "Messy?" Maya echoed. "She said messy?" Sandra nodded, 3 times. Maya's hands trembled so hard she had to grip the table behind her. "Maya," Sandra whispered. "You're not telling me everything. I know that look. What happened last night?" Maya opened her mouth, and then the baby let out a very faint, soft squeak. Barely a sound, but enough. Both women froze. Sandra's eyes widened. "Maya, what was that?" Panic surged through Maya's chest. I dropped something," she lied quickly. But Sandra stepped forward before she could block her. "Maya, move!" Sandra pushed past her and lifted the corner of the towel. Her gasp sliced through the room. "Maya, oh my God, that's a baby." Maya shut her eyes for a moment, then whispered, "Please don't scream." "I'm not screaming," Sandra whispered back, voice trembling. "But, Maya, how did—" Maya explained everything in a low rush. The whimper, the trash bin, the cold skin, the blanket, the blood, everything. Except her suspicion about someone in the family. Sandra covered her mouth with both hands. "They threw her away. Someone threw away a newborn." Maya nodded. Sandra's eyes filled with tears, fear, horror, heartbreak. "We have to take her to the police." Maya shook her head immediately. "No, not yet." "Maya, if we go straight to the police, the Richardsons will use their lawyers and connections. They'll bury this. The baby will get lost in the system. Or worse." Sandra swallowed. "So, what do we do?" Maya looked down at the baby. "We find out who she belongs to."
We find out who she belongs to. We find out who tried to get rid of her. Sandra hesitated. But how? How do we even start? Maya closed her eyes briefly. Then a memory surfaced. Sharp, strange, and unexpected. 2 months ago, Kira had been furious after a phone call. Maya had been dusting the shelves in the hallway when she heard her hiss into the phone. "You said it was taken care of. I don't want surprises. Do you understand me?" At the time, Maya assumed it was about her business ventures or her social image. Now it felt connected. Then came another memory from last week, Kira snapping at Daniel in the garden. "I will not let unwanted consequences ruin this family." Unwanted consequences. Blood behind the house. A newborn in the trash. Maya felt a chill deep in her spine. "Kira," she whispered. Sandra blinked. "What about her?" "I think she knows something. Maybe more than something." Sandra clasped her hands together nervously. "Maya, if Kira is involved, I know. If Kira is involved, she's dangerous. That woman would burn down the city if it protected her image. I know." There was a long silence. Finally, Sandra took a shaky breath. "What do we do now?" Maya picked up the baby, holding her close. "We start with the first clue." Sandra frowned. "What clue?" Maya looked down at the tiny infant. Her blanket. Sandra blinked. "The green one with the embroidery?" Maya nodded. Yes, it wasn't cheap, and those initials weren't random. She reached into her cart and pulled the blanket out. The soft fabric glowed under the laundry room lights. And for the first time, Sandra saw the stitched initials clearly. K.R. Sandra staggered backward. "Maya, those are Kira Richardson's initials." Maya clutched the baby closer, her heartbeat turning thunderous. "I know." Because the truth had just shifted from terrifying to catastrophic. If Kira's blanket was the one wrapped around the baby, then this wasn't an abandoned infant from somewhere outside. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't random. This baby belonged to someone inside the mansion. And Kira had tried to hide her. Or worse, eliminate her. And the reason? That was still missing. But Maya was sure of one thing. The secret wasn't just dark. It was deadly. Maya barely slept that night.
Every time the baby stirred, she was snapped awake, heart racing, terrified someone might hear. She soothed the infant in the dark, whispering lullabies her mother used to sing, rocking gently until the tiny girl drifted back into fragile, exhausted sleep. But even when the baby slept, Maya's mind didn't. Because now she knew two things with absolute certainty. The baby belonged to someone in the Richardson family, and Kira was involved. Her mind kept circling back to the green blanket, the neat embroidery, the initials K.R. Kira Richardson was wealthy enough to have hundreds of monogrammed items, but that blanket wasn't mass-produced. It wasn't from the home linen collection. It wasn't one of the gifts that cluttered the nursery of Daniel's toddler nephews. It was personal, soft, handmade, almost maternal. Maya held the baby closer and felt her chest ache. What kind of mother, if Kira was the mother, discarded her own newborn behind the house like trash? Or, Maya shut her eyes. There was another possibility. Maybe the baby wasn't Kira's. Maybe someone wanted her to believe she was. And maybe that someone wanted the baby gone. She didn't know which truth was worse. Morning in the mansion arrived thick with tension. Staff whispered behind closed doors. Security paced the hallways like shadows. A white forensic van had even appeared at dawn, lingering behind the property before disappearing again. Something had changed. Something had escalated. Maya slipped out of her room once she heard the other housekeepers bustling in the hallway, the soft conversations about laundry loads and breakfast trays trying and failing to hide the fear underneath. She had the baby swaddled and hidden again, tucked safely inside her cart as she pushed it down the service corridor. She headed toward the back laundry passage where she could work undisturbed. She had almost reached the end of the hallway when a cold voice shot through the air. "Maya?" Her blood froze. Kara stood at the far end of the corridor, tall, polished, immaculate as ever in a white silk robe that contrasted too sharply with the exhaustion in her face. Her hair was pinned elegantly, her lips tinted a natural rose, but her eyes were hollow and sharp. Maya kept her voice steady. "Mrs. Richardson?" Kira approached slowly, heels silent on the carpet. "I need to speak with you," she said. Maya swallowed. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "It depends," Kira replied. She stopped only inches away, close enough that Maya could smell her expensive perfume, floral, crisp, suffocating. "Security tells me you were near the back entrance last night, around the time the incident happened." Maya's heartbeat thudded painfully. "Yes, ma'am, I was disposing trash." "Did you see anything unusual?" Kira asked, voice thin, strained. Maya shook her head. "Nothing out of the ordinary." A pause. A cold one. Kira's eyes flickered to the laundry cart. Maya instinctively shifted her body to block it. Kira noticed that. Her gaze sharpened more. "What's in your cart?" she asked. Maya replied softly. "Just linens." Kira stepped even closer as if testing her. Her voice dropped into a whisper sharp enough to cut. "If you are keeping anything from me, anything at all, now is the moment to speak. Do you understand?" Maya nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, ma'am." Kira stared at her for another long moment before giving a stiff, brittle smile. "Good. I expect honesty from my staff." And then she walked away. But Maya waited until she heard her heels disappear around the corner before she finally breathed again. The baby whimpered faintly beneath the towel, sensing the tension. Maya hushed her quickly. "Shh, shh. Sweetheart, we're okay." But they weren't. They were far from okay. That afternoon, Daniel found Maya in the pantry. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him before she could react. "We need to talk," he said. Maya's pulse spiked. "Sir?" Daniel looked even more disheveled than the night before. Eyes bloodshot, fingers shaking slightly, hair tousled like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. He didn't bother with pretenses. "I know someone in this house is lying,
And I think you know something. Maya held her breath. I saw you last night. Not in the backyard. Inside. He hesitated. You looked terrified. Maya tried to remain calm. Everyone was frightened, sir. No, Daniel whispered. You looked like you were hiding something. She didn't answer. He stepped closer. Please, he said, voice cracking. If you know what's going on, tell me. I need to know. Someone hurt a child. Someone threw... He stopped suddenly, choking on the rest of it. Maya's heart softened. Whatever secrets lived in this house, Daniel didn't feel like the enemy. Sir, she whispered gently, why are you asking me these questions? Why not ask your stepmother? Daniel looked away sharply, jaw tightening. That's the problem. I did. Maya's chest tightened. What did she say? Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. She said I should drop it. She said accidents happen. Accidents. A baby in a trash bin. Maya felt something icy crawl across her skin. And then, Daniel continued, she said something else that didn't make sense. He hesitated. What? Maya urged softly. She said, I shouldn't worry about secrets that don't belong to me. Maya's stomach dropped. Daniel rubbed his face. I don't understand any of this. There's blood behind our house. A newborn was abandoned, and she's telling me not to ask questions? Maya knew she was standing on a knife's edge, but she took a slow breath and asked the question that had been clawing at her since last night. Sir, is anyone in the family pregnant? Daniel blinked. What? Anyone? Your stepmother? Your sister? A relative? A friend staying here? No, Daniel said slowly. No one's pregnant. And if they were, I would know. I'm not blind. But then, he stopped. His entire expression shifted. Maya watched as a realization flickered behind his eyes, haunted, confused, dawning slowly like a storm on the horizon. Maya, he whispered, voice trembling. I never told anyone this, but 2 months ago, I found something. She held her breath. In the guest house bathroom, Daniel said slowly. A positive pregnancy test. Silence. A deep, suffocating silence. Did you ask anyone? Maya whispered. Daniel shook his head. I confronted Kira. She told me it wasn't mine. She told me to forget I ever saw it. Maya's entire body went cold. She felt the world tilt. Because now everything was connecting. The stress, the secrecy, the fear, the blanket with initials, the thrown-away baby, the mysterious pregnancy, Daniel's haunted look, and the suffocating lie sitting in the center of it all. Maya, Daniel whispered, his voice barely holding together, do you think the baby... His breath stopped. He looked sick, horrified, terrified. Maya didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The possibility, unspoken, devastating, hung heavy in the air between them. The baby might be Daniel's. Daniel stumbled back a step, hand clenching the pantry counter like the ground was tilting. No, that can't, it can't, I never... But Maya saw truth in the panic in his eyes, a truth he hadn't been ready to admit. His voice dropped to a broken whisper. Maya, do you think someone is trying to destroy my life? She placed a trembling hand on the counter beside him. Not just your life. A baby's too. Daniel lifted his head. Their eyes met, both terrified, both realizing the same thing at the same time. Whatever this secret was, someone was willing to kill to protect it. The baby whimpered quietly inside Maya's cart outside the pantry, soft, small, innocent, and that tiny cry felt like the beginning of a war the Richardson family had been hiding for months, a war that was now about to explode.
The moment the video hit the internet, the world went feral.
Not loud at first. No, it started like a low growl, a whisper under the floorboards, a hum behind every locked screen, every refresh button, a tiny spark in a dry field. Then, as if the entire country inhaled at once, it exploded. By noon, the clip of the stepmother grabbing Mariah's wrist and accusing her of stealing that watch had hit 1 million views. By 2 p.m., it had 10 million. By sunset, nothing else existed. And when the billionaire's son, her own stepson, stepped into the frame and said, loud enough for every microphone in that terminal to pick up, "The only thief here is the one who's been stealing dignity for years," people lost their minds. They weren't comments, really. They were war drums disguised as words. Fired immediately. Arrest her. Imagine humiliating a black woman on camera in this decade. Stepmother from hell. Hope the billionaire divorces her with nothing. A few tried to defend her, for about 6 seconds. Those accounts went mysteriously quiet after being buried under a tsunami of "delete your account. Are you blind or just racist?" And the hashtags? Oh, the hashtags. They bred like rabbits. Mariah deserves better. Stepmother scandal. Terminal truth. Black woman wronged. Expose her. But the one that shot to #1 globally was the one that would haunt the stepmother forever. Hashtag she blamed the maid. No context needed. No explanation, no nuance. Just 5 words twisted into a cultural knife. And they were merciless. By the next morning, reporters were outside the mansion gates. Helicopters hovered above like hungry vultures. Every news outlet ran headlines with the same deliciously scandalous tone. Billionaire's wife caught on camera targeting innocent black passenger. Stepson defends bystander, exposes stepmother's lie. Luxury, lies, and airport shame. One network even ran an entire segment comparing her facial expression during the accusation to villains in classic cinema. The memes were brutal. People edited her pointing finger into movie posters. They slow-moed the moment she grabbed Mariah's wrist and added dramatic villain music. Someone made a filter that put her face on cartoon witches. The internet is many things, creative, ruthless, unforgiving, and it decided to be all 3 at once. Her husband, the billionaire himself, was still on a flight when the story went viral. By the time he landed, his phone had turned into a funeral bell. Legal team, PR team, investors, board members, his mother, all leaving the same message. Fix it. When he arrived home, he didn't storm in like he usually did. He didn't throw his coat or bark orders. He stood in the foyer with eyes that looked tired, older, heavier. "Tell me," he said quietly, "that you didn't actually say those things." But she had, and he knew it. He'd seen the video 12 times before the plane even touched the runway. She tried to blame editing. She tried to blame the airport staff. She tried to blame stress, allergies, blood sugar, anything but herself. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult her. He simply sighed and said the sentence she feared most. "You brought shame on this family." Her stomach twisted into a cold knot. It wasn't the shame. It was the fact that he said, "this family," not "our family." The divorce lawyers would smell that wording from miles away. Her name trended for 2 days straight. Some people praised her strength, some demanded she sue, some tried to track down her entire life story, which terrified her. She didn't want fame, she didn't want attention, she just wanted to go home. But cameras followed her, strangers recognized her in grocery stores, people asked for selfies, as if she were some celebrity who planned her humiliation for clout. Her phone buzzed nonstop with interview requests, morning shows, talk shows, podcasts, influencers begging for a collab. Her boss even asked if she'd be comfortable doing a local news segment. "Absolutely not," she said, more sharply than she intended. She didn't want any of this. She wanted peace. But the internet has no off switch. Not physical threats. No one was insane enough to threaten the billionaire's family outright. But the stepmother's inbox filled with, "Hope your husband takes you for everything. You're a disgrace to women. Rot in the PR ashes you tried to create." And then the real killers, emails from brands, sponsors, charities she represented. Every message said the same thing in different fonts. "We are terminating your partnership effective immediately." She had been on 3 charity boards. 2 removed her within hours. The third didn't even call. They just wiped her name from the website. Her reputation was compost. Her social status? Dust. He didn't give interviews. He didn't post online. He didn't bask in the viral praise. Instead, he spent his time calling lawyers, Mariah's lawyers. He helped her document everything. He guided her through the wildfire of media attention. He shielded her from the worst of it. Every step he took made it painfully clear. He wasn't doing this for publicity, or revenge, or even for his own family's honor. He was doing this because he was tired. Tired of watching people like his stepmother get away with cruelty under the umbrella of wealth. Tired of staying silent to keep the peace. Tired of seeing decent people, especially black women, treated like they were inconvenient. He wanted this to end the right way. Not with memes, not with hashtags, not with temporary internet rage, but with justice. The airport released a statement, then another, then a full apology to Mariah. The airline suspended the crew involved. Security protocols were investigated. Policy changes were drafted overnight. Lawyers circled the stepmother like sharks around a wounded seal. But the worst backlash wasn't online, wasn't legal, wasn't financial. It happened inside her own house. The silence. The emptiness. The way her husband avoided eye contact. The way the staff walked carefully like the walls were thinner now. The way her stepson ignored her entirely. No yelling, no confrontation, just ice. That, more than anything, broke her. She had always been many things, ambitious, dramatic, sharp-tongued, hungry for status, but she had never been invisible. Now, she didn't exist. The world had moved on. Her family had moved on. Her power evaporated. This wasn't humiliation. It was erasure, the kind that buries you without a grave. And she knew, she felt it in the heavy stillness of the mansion. The reckoning hadn't even started yet.
The fallout didn't end the story. It only cleared the air for the real storm to begin. For days, the world kept replaying the airport moment, the stepmother's hand gripping Mariah's wrist, her voice slicing through the terminal, her stepson stepping forward like a shield between 2 worlds colliding. But actions online fade fast. Memes burn out. Hashtags fall off the trending page. What doesn't fade? Truth. And the truth had finally stopped knocking. It was kicking the door off its hinges. She had been calm for weeks. Too calm, everyone said. Polite in interviews, firm in her statements, composed even when reporters shoved microphones in her face. But composure is a thin blanket. Eventually, the cold gets in. It happened on a Tuesday morning. She was walking to her mailbox, hood up, sunglasses on, hoping to avoid a neighbor who'd turned into an amateur paparazzi since the incident. But the moment she opened the box, a stack of letters spilled out. Fan mail, yes, but also reporters pretending to be supporters, lawyers fishing for clients, people asking for advice on how to go viral like you. She slammed the mailbox shut, dropped the letters on the ground, and leaned against the fence. She didn't cry. Crying would have been easier. She just breathed. Too fast, too shallow, like the world had shrunk around her. Her phone buzzed. The caller ID froze her. Unknown number, legal office. She hesitated, then answered. A calm voice responded. It belonged to a lawyer she didn't hire. Miss Carter? Yes? I'm representing someone who would like to speak with you privately. Who? There was a pause. My client prefers not to state their name until you agree to meet, but they want to make something right. Mariah knew immediately who it was. There was only one person left who hadn't spoken to her. Only one person who hadn't apologized. Only one person whose silence had been a thunderstorm waiting to break. The stepmother. Mariah inhaled slowly. Tell her, she said, to come herself next time. No lawyers. She hung up before he could reply. The billionaire's son, Jason, had spent the past week navigating lawyers, statements, and internal family politics. He was exhausted, not physically, emotionally. Every room in the mansion felt like it had a weight to it. The staff whispered. His father stayed locked in his study, and his stepmother drifted around like a ghost dressed in designer silk. But Jason tried to ignore her. But silence only works when everyone agrees to keep it, and she wasn't built for silence, not after a lifetime of dominance. She cornered him in the hallway on Thursday evening. Jason, she said sharply, we need to talk. He didn't stop walking. No, we don't. Yes, we do. She stepped in front of him, blocking the doorway with trembling hands. Not angry trembles, fearful ones. I made a mistake, she whispered. He stared at her, long and cold, the kind of stare that makes you look away even if you think you're brave. A mistake? He repeated. That wasn't a mistake. That was who you are. Her throat tightened. That's not fair. No, it's not, but it's true. Her eyes glistened not with tears, but with something uglier. The realization that her power over him was gone. Jason, you don't understand. He cut her off. No, you don't understand. You didn't just hurt her. You embarrassed this family. You embarrassed me. And you know what the worst part is? She swallowed hard. You didn't even care until the world saw you. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time in her life, she had no script. Jason stepped past her and walked away. She didn't chase him. She couldn't. The billionaire himself. Until now, he'd stayed quiet. Too quiet. He didn't defend her. He didn't condemn her. He didn't post statements or make speeches. People wondered if he was protecting her behind the scenes. He wasn't. He was watching the internet twist their family name into a circus, watching his wife crumble under scrutiny she invited on herself, watching the woman he thought he knew turn into someone he no longer recognized. And on Friday morning, he called Mariah. Not through lawyers, not through assistants. Himself. She answered on the third ring. Miss Carter? Speaking. This is... I know who you are. He inhaled. I want to meet. Not for publicity, not for statements, for clarity. Mariah hesitated. Every instinct told her to say no, but another instinct, the one that had kept her calm all this time, told her this wasn't about fear. It was about closure. Fine, she said. One meeting. Public place, no cameras. Agreed. Not a fancy one. Not a paparazzi hotspot. Just a tiny place with chipped mugs and mismatched chairs. The billionaire arrived dressed simply. No suit, no entourage, just a gray sweater and the weight of a man who finally realized he'd ignored a problem growing in his own home. Mariah sat across from him, hands folded in her lap. He didn't waste time. I came to apologize. She blinked. I
didn't expect that. I didn't expect this. And that's my fault. He looked down at his hands. My wife has many flaws. Some I overlooked. Some I excused. Some I became blind to. Mariah didn't speak. She didn't need to. But what she did to you was not a flaw. He looked up. It was cruelty. The words shocked her, not because they were harsh, but because they came from him. And cruelty, he said, cannot be excused. Mariah's breath caught in her chest. No one from his family had said it so plainly. He took a long breath, then said the words that changed everything. I'm ending the marriage. Mariah froze, not because she cared, but because she knew what that meant. This wasn't backlash. This was consequence. And consequences, unlike the internet, do not fade. She was sitting in the living room, scrolling through comments, absorbing every insult like a slow poison. The billionaire walked in, silent as always. We need to talk. She turned, hopeful for the first time in weeks. Finally, she said, we can put this behind us. No, he said. His tone was flat, unshakable. We can't. Her smile cracked. What do you mean? He sat down across from her. You crossed a line, he said softly. A line I cannot protect you from. A line I will not defend. She shook her head, voice trembling. No, you can't. I can, and I will. Her heartbeat stuttered. You're leaving me, she whispered. I'm holding you accountable. Tears finally broke, not for guilt, but for fear. And Jason? She choked. He'll forgive me. He already forgave you, her husband said. She blinked. What? He forgave you the moment he realized who you truly are. And then he paused. He let you go. Her breath shattered. She understood the meaning instantly. Jason didn't hate her. He was done with her. And being done was worse than hate. It was emptiness. It was absence. It was a door closed so gently you didn't realize it was locked forever. Mariah found her voice. Jason found his courage. The billionaire found his clarity. And the stepmother finally faced a world she couldn't manipulate. But the final reckoning had not arrived. Not yet. That was still coming. And when it did, it would be louder, sharper, and more devastating than anything that came before.
The world expected the story to fade. It always does. Scandals come and go, replaced by new chaos, new villains, new headlines. But this one didn't fade, because the real ending hadn't happened yet. The viral clips, the interviews, the statements, all of that was noise. The truth was still sitting heavy in the air, waiting for the moment it could no longer be ignored. And that moment arrived on a cold Friday morning, when all four of them, Mariah, the stepmother, Jason, and the billionaire, crossed paths one last time. It wasn't planned. It wasn't orchestrated. It was inevitable. Mariah woke up with the strange feeling that something was coming. Not dread, more like a shift, a turning page. She moved through her morning quietly, making coffee, tying her hair back, straightening her small apartment. She didn't expect visitors, but life rarely sends warnings. There was a knock on her door. 3 soft taps. A pause. And then a fourth, hesitant, almost apologetic. Mariah opened the door with the chain still on. Her breath caught. It was Jason. Not the composed, camera-ready Jason from the interviews, not the guarded, tight-jawed Jason from the mansion. This was a man carrying the weight of everything he had lost and everything he was finally ready to protect. Mariah removed the chain. He stepped inside without her needing to invite him. "We need to talk," he said softly. She nodded, motioning toward the small couch. But he didn't sit. "My father told me everything last night," he said. "The meeting, the decision to end things, the truth about what she's done, what she's been doing for years." Mariah's stomach tightened. She braced herself for betrayal, for the possibility that he had come to defend his stepmother at the last second. But then Jason looked up, eyes raw with something close to anger. You were right. About her. About all of it. Mariah let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Jason paced once, hands on his hips. She's not taking the divorce well, he continued. She's unraveling. And when people like her unravel, they try to break whoever they think caused it. Mariah's pulse quickened. She came to my father's office this morning, he added. She screamed, threw things, accused him of choosing the wrong side of the story. There was a pause so heavy it filled the room. Then he said it. And she's coming here. Mariah froze. What? She wants to confront you, he said. She wants you to retract everything, to apologize publicly, to fix her reputation, and she thinks scaring you will do it. Mariah's voice was quiet. How do you know? Jason reached into his coat and pulled out his phone. He pressed play. It was a voicemail. The stepmother's voice, strained, shaking, but furious. Your little maid thinks she ruined me. She hasn't even begun. I'm going to her. I'm ending this at the source. Mariah's legs went numb. Jason grabbed her arm. I'm not letting her get anywhere near you. My father and I are going to fix this the right way, but you need to be prepared for what's coming. Mariah swallowed hard. What is coming? Jason didn't answer. He didn't have to, because at that moment, there was another knock at the door. Louder. Harder. Mariah's blood ran ice cold. Jason turned toward the door, jaw tightening. You're not opening it, he whispered. But the handle jiggled. Violently. Mariah! The stepmother shouted. Open this door right now. Jason's hand curled into a fist. Mariah backed away, heart crashing against her ribs. The door shook under the impact of a shove, then another, then a third. Open it! Jason moved in front of the door, muscles coiled. Go away! He shouted. Silence fell on the other side. A cold, suffocating silence that made the hair on Mariah's arms rise. Then, Jason? His stepmother's voice was suddenly soft, sweet, manipulative. Let me in, sweetheart. He let out a bitter laugh. You don't get to talk to me like that anymore. Her tone sharpened instantly. You're choosing her, a stranger, a nobody? Mariah winced at the word nobody. Jason didn't. He stepped even closer to the door. I'm choosing the truth, he said. The hallway outside erupted. A slap against the door, a scream, then the unmistakable crash of something thrown against the wall. Mariah's breath trembled. Jason, she whispered. I know. I called my dad on the way here. He's coming. So are security and the police, but she's not going to calm down before they arrive. The door shook again, this time so violently that the hinges rattled. I'm going to destroy you, she screamed. Both of you. Jason braced his weight against the door as if expecting her to break through it. Mariah, he said quietly, listen to me. She forced herself to meet his gaze. You didn't ruin her life, he said. She did. All you did was survive it. Another slam, then another, then sirens. They were faint, distant, but unmistakable. The pounding on the door paused. Then a frantic, scrambling sound rushed down the hallway, running footsteps, a panicked escape attempt. Jason exhaled slowly. She's running. Mariah pressed her hand against her chest, trying to steady her breathing. Moments later, the sirens grew louder, closer, until bright red lights flashed through the window. Jason looked at her. This is it, he said softly. The end. And he was right. The next hour unfolded like a slow, inevitable collapse of everything the stepmother had spent years crafting. Police cars, security footage pulled, statements given, a restraining order placed, her husband arriving with a face carved from stone, saying nothing at all, which was worse than yelling. She was escorted away, screaming, cursing, threatening lawsuits, vengeance, the whole world. But her power was gone. Her mask had cracked too deeply. Her image was shattered too publicly. And as she was placed into the back of the patrol car, her eyes met Mariah's through the tinted window. There was no anger left, no arrogance, just the empty, hollow recognition that the world she ruled no longer belonged to her. Jason placed a gentle hand on Mariah's shoulder. "You're safe now," he murmured. She didn't reply, not because she didn't believe him, but because it was the first time, truly the first time, she felt it. And the billionaire, standing beside his son, looked at Mariah with a gratitude words could not touch. "You exposed the truth, and because of you, my family can finally rebuild." Mariah looked at them, father and son, two men who had spent years under a shadow they never dared acknowledge, now standing in the sunlight at last. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Jason gave a small, tired smile. "Now," he said, "now we begin again." And as the police car pulled away, taking the last remnants of the storm with it, Mariah felt something she hadn't felt in months. Freedom, justice, and the quiet, steady certainty that she had survived something meant to crush her. But instead of breaking, she rose.